It was an ordinary Monday, and I went to work on time as usual. After finishing my work, I was ready to go to the canteen for lunch. When I was about to finish eating, my stomach started to have a sharp pain. I felt very uncomfortable and I went back to my desk. I decided to take a break with some water, hoping to relieve the pain. I took a sip of water and things didn't get better. I suddenly collapsed and lost consciousness. One of my colleagues quickly called the emergency services. Shortly thereafter, paramedics arrived on the scene and they rushed me to the hospital. Throughout this process, my supervisor stayed by my side, giving me support and comfort. Upon arrival at the hospital, the doctor performed a series of tests and diagnosed me. The doctor told me that my pain was caused by kidney stones. The doctors decided to keep me under further observation to determine the best treatment plan. They explained that surgery may be required if the situation warrants it. My daughter arrived at the hospital with some of my personal belongings as well. During the course of the day, I underwent a series of tests. Due to the increased pain, the doctor gave me some pain medication. This medication helped to relieve some of the pain, but shortly after, I began to experience fever and nausea. A nurse reassured me that things would get better after a while. In the evening, my daughter had to leave the hospital because she had school tomorrow. My sister decided to stay and continue to take care of me. Since she had to work tomorrow, I was adamant that she go home and rest, promising that I would take care of myself. I knew she had hardly eaten all day. However, during the night, I started to vomit. When the nurse learned of my condition, she provided me with some anti-vomiting medication in hopes of relieving my discomfort. Around 10 p.m., the doctors were having an emergency meeting. I told the nurse that my nausea was getting worse. She told me that she could not provide me with any treatment until she checked with my doctor. This meant I had to wait until after the meeting was over. Suddenly, the doctor who had been treating me during the day walked into the room. He told me that he was leaving work and offered me his best wishes that everything would go well. He told the nurse at his side to give me an anti-nausea medication to help relieve my symptoms. Shortly after, I began to feel my eyes become heavy. I felt my body become weak and my breathing became slower and slower. Gradually I lost consciousness. This condition made me feel very frightened. I realized that I had entered an abnormal state. I tried to call the nurse, but could not make a sound or any movement. I no longer had any control over my body. I remember that my soul was pulled out and a strange feeling filled my whole body. I was detached from my body and suspended above the bed. I was able to clearly see everything that was happening in the hospital. The nurse entered the room and pressed the bedside alarm. She tried to connect me to oxygen. However, there seemed to be a problem with the equipment, and she kept fiddling with the oxygen machine. A group of doctors and nurses were constantly busy around me. Some were preparing syringes and others were adjusting the settings of the apparatus. The doctor was shouting my name while shining a flashlight into my eyes. The doctor told the others that my pupils were dilated. The doctor picked up a syringe and prepared to give me a drug injection in my chest. Then I heard the doctor say that I did not have enough oxygen supply to my brain. At this time, I decided to leave the area. I went out into the corridor of the hospital. I came to the next room. There was an old man lying in the room who was on a ventilator. He was about 60 years old and his hair was silvery gray. He was very tall. As I approached him, I could smell the smell of alcohol coming from him. The old man was lying on a bed, connected to a ventilator. His face looked very tired, probably due to a long illness. The next experience was surreal for me. Suddenly, I appeared in a white room. Everything around me was pure white and full of bright light. The space emanated a strange energy. There were no walls or windows in this room, only a door. I couldn't make out the exact shape of the door, but I knew it was a door. It seemed to be the only exit in this room and exuded a mysterious attraction. The door was in stark contrast to its surroundings, as if it were a gateway to an unknown world. An impulse came over me to walk towards the door and explore everything behind it. I bravely stepped out of the door. I immediately felt an unprecedented sense of relief and peace. There was a superb scent in the air, far more than anything I had ever experienced on Earth. This fragrance was so pure. A hill appeared before my eyes. It was so different from the hills on Earth. They were so spectacular and mysterious that they were completely beyond my imagination of the natural world. These hills emitted a unique glow, shining with soft and enchanting colors. Just as I was admiring the view, suddenly my uncle appeared in front of me. He was exactly the same as I remembered. This made me feel very warm. When I was very young, I spent a long time with my uncle and his family. During that time, my parents had to stay in the hospital for a long time to take care of my brother, who was born prematurely. My uncle and his family selflessly took me in and gave me love and care. Although I was only 4 years old at that time, the memories of that time are very memorable. Seeing my uncle's presence made me feel very close to him. Later, my parents and I moved to another city, and our contact with each other gradually became less and less. For a long time, we rarely saw each other and could only keep in touch by phone. In August 2005, my uncle passed away. He had a tragic fall at home and then fell into a coma and eventually left this world. This was a heavy blow to me. In the last hours of his life, I was at his bedside, watching his life fade away. It was an incredibly difficult and painful time. And my heart was filled with sadness. Here, the encounter with my uncle seemed to have a special meaning. It seemed that my uncle's soul found peace and eternity in this wonderful space. My uncle gazed at me with caring eyes. Suddenly, I felt my uncle's response to me. A kind of communication between souls. Although there was no sound, I could feel it. "Uncle, I don't know what to say, but I want to tell you that even though we have been separated for a long time in the real world, you have always been one of the people closest to my heart." I felt a warm response, as if he was silently telling me that he was always watching over me and supporting me. "Thank you, Uncle, for all you have done for me. Although you have left this world, I know that your soul still exists." In this wonderful space, I had a conversation with my uncle's soul. Although there were no words exchanged, I could feel his love for me. This conversation gave me inner comfort and strength. Finally, my uncle said to me, "Son, it is time to go back. Your daughter needs you. You have to continue to take care of her and give her your endless love and care. I will always be with you, and even though I am not with you, my blessings will always be with you." I understood what he meant and knew I had to return to the real world and fulfill my responsibilities as a mother. Suddenly, I was back in that white room again. This time, I noticed that the door was gone. As I felt confused, the scene around me began to blur, as if it was being slowly erased by some force. I could feel my soul being pulled by a powerful force and re-entered the hospital. I could hear the beating of my heart. My body gradually recovered and I could feel the temperature around me. When I opened my eyes, the nurses told me that I had scared them. Even though my body had recovered, a sense of loss gripped my heart. I didn't want to talk to anyone. This loss made me long to be alone and dwell on my memories. For a long time, I chose to remain silent and did not discuss my experience with anyone. Later in the year, I began to adjust myself and reintegrate into my daily life. Despite my choice to remain silent, deep inside, that amazing experience stayed with me. It had a profound effect on me. I understood that some things cannot be explained in a conventional way, and they can give us unique insights. This experience has changed my outlook on life. I became more tolerant and understanding of others. I began to see life and death from a broader perspective. I learned to look at all my experiences in life in a positive way. I no longer feared death, but looked forward to it. I realized that the real meaning of life is how to live a more meaningful life. My outlook has also shifted, especially on issues related to health. I realized that health is a precious gift and that we should cherish and take good care of our bodies. This experience has also changed the way I deal with problems. I have learned to face challenges and difficulties with a positive attitude. No matter what the outcome is, I will learn from my experience and lessons. I believe that every setback and failure is a part of life and they shape our growth and development. Although I did not meet an angel or God during this experience, I am convinced that God is real. This experience has also strengthened my faith in God. I believe that God plays an important role in everyone's life, giving us strength and guidance. During my coma in the hospital, the lack of oxygen supply to my brain caused damage to my brain, which caused me to develop a mild form of epilepsy. This disease became a part of my life. Although it was a difficult experience, I firmly believe that there is something better waiting for us after death. This belief has given me tremendous strength and courage to persevere. Without my faith and my responsibility to my children, I may not have made it through this difficult time. My faith has become an anchor within me, giving me hope and strength. I believe that after death, we will enter the other world, free from all pain and worries, and attain eternal peace. In addition to my own faith, my children are also my motivation to keep going. As a mother, I must be strong to face difficulties and create a bright future for them.